everyone, it's Emilie Shapiro. Today I'm interviewing my friend Laura Kitsos, who owns Gem Jewelry Boutique in Chicago. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me. A little selfish just because I love to talk to you.
Thank you. Same. I'm really honored. I love talking to you too. So this is
Oh,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we first met. I was trying to think about this before in
Yeah.
person, I think at a trade show,
It
when you
must have
were,
been.
yeah, but I think before that I was following you on Instagram, which I'll share your
Mhm.
Instagram with everyone.
Oh, thank you.
So you have the most amazing eye for design. I
Oh,
love your row house. You have multiple Instagram accounts, but your
that's
row
right. We
house,
follow each other. Yeah,
yes,
yes.
your
You also
design
are
Instagram.
designing a home.
But so
Thank
how
you.
did you get started, like, in your love for design, in the jewelry
hmm
world? I'd love to just hear about, like, how you got started with this.
They kind of all tied together when I was in my 20s. I was in retail, like higher end retail. I was in furniture design and but before that, I had a grandmother who collected antiques and
Oh,
also had a passion for jewelry. And she would, every time I visited her, she'd bring me into her bedroom and take one of her jewelry boxes out and sit me on her bed. And we'd lay out a bunch of jewelry and she'd tell me the story behind each piece, which was, what jewelry is, right? And
yeah, that's so special.
it was. And I was born in Germany because my dad was in the army, so I was born on
Oh,
an army base. And she came to Germany when I was born because I was the first grandchild. And so she and my grandfather toured like every city in Europe at that time. And so she had a charm from each city, on a charm bracelet.
I love
Um,
that.
but the stories behind each piece, and some of her jewelry was not great. Like she had pieces from like service merchandise,
Yeah,
I mean, it ran the gamut, everything from really cool vintage pieces to sort of tacky, you know, like
grandma's.
diamond rings from Sears, I mean, like it was everything. She just loved jewelry. But after the end, like she would just say, "So what's your favorite piece?" or something like that. And I would like point to something and she would give me, a piece. And it was just, I have that memory for the rest of my life. So I feel like she kind of inspired my love for jewelry
That
initially.
that's really special. I have kind of a similar story to that. My
Oh,
grandma also had, like, the most amazing jewelry collection, and my mom, and I would just always kinda,
uh,
I guess it wasn't really them showing me, it was more me snooping around, looking
yeah.
up those, but really, like, it is, like, such a special thing with jewelry
Yeah.
that, yeah, they hold stories,
Yep.
where they came from, but also the connection between you 2.
Right. And just travel. I mean, I always, encourage anybody when they're traveling to buy a small piece of, even if it's just something inexpensive, just to remember, because you always remember where you got your piece or the gift that was behind it, usually, if it was
Mhm.
a milestone birthday or, I mean, jewelry just tells so many stories and it's also the easiest thing to pack, like,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's
yeah.
so, well, I love knowing that background of, like, kind of what sparked your interests,
hmm
but, you started to talk about, like, working
Yeah.
for a high-end furniture designer.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I'm just so curious, like, what your career path has been to now. What's the in between before you opened your own store?
It's just been really pieced together. I was an art student. I basically, studied art, graphic design, fine art, art history in college. And
Where did you go to school?
I went in Chicago, UIC, University of Illinois in Chicago. Yeah. And I never really knew what I want in my 20s. I really had no idea what I wanted to do. And I worked in a few different boutiques, and one of them was Shabby Chic, which is not around anymore. Well, I guess the furniture still is around, but it was really the thing in like the early 90s.
Mhm.
And so I learned so much about hand built, high end, furniture and vintage wares and how to choose fabrics and how fabrics wear. And it was like a crash course in it. And I really learned so much. Took that knowledge, moved to Portland, Oregon for 2 years. And my ex-husband, he's a musician. So we went there for the music scene. And I got a job in another boutique in Portland, and they kind of put me in charge of their home furnishing store, which literally no one ever went into. So I was sitting in the store all day long, bored off my gourd, and I started beading, just
Yeah.
beading like randomly, just sitting there at the desk. I mean, this is before cell phones. So, you know, I wasn't like able to scroll my phone all
Yeah.
day long. And so my boss was really cool, and he, you know, it was a married couple, and the husband came in one day and like caught me, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. He's like, it's okay. You know, I mean, I encourage you to have your own hobby. And as long as if a customer walks in, you help them, you can keep on doing this. If, you know, actually you should try to sell some of your pieces to this boutique down the street. I think they would like them.
Hmm.
So I started selling my pieces, and they were just beaded, nothing crazy, but like
Sure.
Y necklaces, you know, like
Yeah.
this is when, you know, Friends was on and the Y
Right.
was like all the
That's the
hit.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was making a Y basically. And I got it. I don't know how it all happened. I got a rep. I got into some boutiques. I got in some boutiques back home in Chicago. Eventually we moved back to
What was
Chicago.
the, did you have a name for the line? I did not know this about you.
It was like my name, basically LK Designs.
Hmm.
My name is Laura Kitsos, LK Designs. Yeah,
Yeah,
nothing fancy.
sure. I mean, my family still
Yeah,
calls it Emmy Designs, and I'm like, it's not that anymore. That was high school, guys. Come on.
right. I
Come
know. I
on.
had like my email was lkdesigns at AOL.com.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just sort of evolved organically. It wasn't rushed. I moved back to Chicago. I sold a couple of stores, but I also had to get another job
Hmm.
because, you know, we needed money and health insurance and all that. So I worked as a merchandiser
Hmm.
for Monet Jewelry. If you remember them,
Yeah,
they
that
were
sounds
in the department
really.
stores.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds really familiar.
like the antithesis of what I, you know, do now. And
Sure.
so it kind of, you know, I just did that for a while because I really wasn't even interested in making jewelry after seeing how it was mass produced the way it was.
Yeah.
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 So,
Were
I
there
mean, I'm like,
things though that you
yeah.
learned in your merchandising career
Mhm.
for like you said, the antithesis that like
Yeah.
do you feel like there are any lessons besides it being the opposite of what you love about jewelry? Are there any lessons that you learned in that?
Yeah. Never let a customer see you pull jewelry out of a plastic bag, like a bunch. It's all about, you know, the way you display it. And also their whole philosophy was mass it out, you know, is put as much stuff on the counter and on the racks and in the cake, like just load it up.
Hmm.
And I am the opposite of that. I feel like the more you see, the more overwhelmed you become. So I put each piece in the case deliberately with, you know, with love and attention, and they each have their own space to shine. And you know what I mean? Like I really care about the way the cases look.
Yeah, interesting. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a lesson in itself is learning to do something the opposite way.
Right. It was. And I didn't even realize it, but working for that company kind of, you know, even though it kind of turned me off jewelry for a few years,
Yeah.
made me realize there are so many different aspects to this, you know, this industry.
Mhm. Or facets, if you will.
I was going to say facets, but you
I say it
know,
all the time. So
I do too, but then I would have had to say no pun intended.
of course, that's usually what well, sorry, I said for the two of us.
Thank you.
So after your career at Monet, like,
Yeah.
was there another step in between leaping into Gem
Mhm.
or?
Well, Monet filed bankruptcy,
Oh,
and so I kind of was forced to not do that anymore. And my boys were little, they were babies at the time, and I just sort of drove by a storefront and decided to rent it. It was very impulsive and naive, but it was, you know, with good intention. And so I opened up it was like a studio atelier, make stuff in the back, sell in the front kind of situation. And then I also had a lot of vintage jewelry that I was selling too, but it was only my jewelry at the time. I was still selling to some stores and they were doing trunk shows for me. And I was also selling at like craft fairs and
mm,
art fairs mainly here in Chicago, which was really hard. And I didn't really want to continue down. I think what naturally would have happened is I would have gone more into a wholesale,
yeah,
like what you do, you know, and start selling to stores. But because I just didn't want to hit the road and I had young children, it made
yeah,
more sense for me to have a store.
sure. I
So
mean,
I
I have
thought.
young kids now.
Now
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
so it's although they might be a little older than what the point in your life you're talking about, but it's
yeah.
hard. I feel like it's interesting that so many people start on on the retail end of things, and it's so exhausting, and then move to the wholesale.
Yeah.
But I feel like
Yeah.
the more people I talk about now are like trying to go back to the retail model.
Really? Yeah, it
I
does seem like more and more, designers are opening up their own boutiques, which I
a bit-
love.
yeah.
I
Yeah, I
love
think
it.
yeah. Um so you started just selling your stuff in that space. So that was and was it
Mhm.
called Gem or was it just called Laura Kitsos?
It was called Gem. I just was,
Liked
I
it.
don't know, thinking what sounds obvious, It's Gem Jewelry Boutique. So I
Yeah.
actually made up, and I know that there'll probably be people who'll fight me on this, but I made up the term jewelry boutique. I thought I don't want to be a store
Aw.
that sells jewelry like a store, like a jewelry store,
Yeah.
like men in suits behind a big glass. I wasn't that.
Uh-huh.
I wanted it to be a more of a European kind of feeling.
Uh-huh.
And there weren't jewelry boutiques back. I mean, in 19,
Yeah.
whatever this was, 2004. And there were clothing stores that sold nice jewelry,
Yep.
and there
But
were jewelry stores,
mhm.
but not jewelry boutiques.
I'm giving you full credit for this. You
I made it up. I mean, I maybe other people did too at the same time, but thank
sure,
you.
but that was also at a time I mean, obviously 2004, there clearly was the internet, but not in the
Not
iteration that it is
really.
now that we're like,
No.
massively seeing all day these thousands of images. So even if there
No.
were other
Yeah.
people who were making it up at the same time, you didn't know. So I give you credit.
Yeah, like it was in the universe. So maybe somebody else picked it up at the same time, but it wasn't like something but yeah, I mean I did actually have a website at the very beginning. I hired a web
Mhm.
designer and I hired a PR agency, and um I got into Daily Candy. Do you remember that?
I
Daily
do. Yeah. Of
Candy?
course I
Yeah.
remember Daily Candy.
That was a really lucky break because it kind of established me a little better in the industry. And
Yeah.
the industry was so small then. It was so much
Mhm.
smaller than it is now.
Yeah. And very
You
different.
know, no social media. I mean, there was Facebook, but not really like, wait, no, there wasn't even Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah.
There
I
was
think that was like
MySpace.
2007-ish.
Yeah. So there was MySpace, and I didn't do that. So yeah, I was basically rogue,
Mm-hmm.
like in a shop hoping people would walk in.
Mm-hmm. Do you miss that time ever of being able to be rogue?
My boys always ask me that. Do you miss the 90s? Like, yeah, I guess, but I'm cool with advancing, and I really do think that social media is
Mhm.
huge for our industry, and it does help. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of our sales come through that channel, and we
Yeah.
can speak to people easier throughout the country who follow us. So I don't know. I don't ever like to go backward. So
Mhm.
maybe I appreciate it, but I don't think I miss it.
Well, that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think with social media, it really gives you, especially as a jewelry boutique, you're
Hmm.
able to speak to your customers who are not just walking in. You're able to speak to people all over the country and all over the world and still be able to
Right.
share that story. And it's a powerful thing.
It is very powerful. I mean, it's crazy because I don't want to rely on it, but in a sense, we kind
Yeah.
of do, right?
Yeah. No, I do too. And it's a lot
Hmm.
of, I think what I and everyone is thinking about now is like,
Yeah,
what's the safety net, like if and when that all goes away or when it
right.
changes, and definitely
Hmm.
something to think about. But
And being shadow banned, like I feel like we are.
yeah, I know it's like, yeah, it's the whole like algorithm thing is
It's
just,
so
it makes
bad.
this,
Yeah,
the more I think about it, the less sense it makes to me.
I know. And I, tried to like embrace TikTok and everything, but I'm not really into it. We have a TikTok page and
Are you
Jen
good?
runs it, but it's not really.
Yeah, we my good friend works for TikTok, and she was like, sold me on how I have to create an
Oh,
account, this and that. I was like, all right, and I
yeah,
did, and I'm like, I can never
yeah,
open it again. It's just,
yeah,
I I couldn't. I should, but I couldn't. We can only do what we can do.
yeah. We know exactly. Yeah, we're only one person doing the job of 1,000.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so at what point did you start selling other, like I know you've always done vintage, but like at what point did you
Yeah.
just expand the jewelry boutique?
Yeah. So I picked up a designer that was local. She was my first designer. And then I started going, I think my first trade show must have been in New York. I think I went to New York Gift Show, which was
I
the
think
gift back
I think
then.
that's when we met,
Yeah.
because I
You were a
remember you.
gift.
I first of all, I have a freakishly good memory when it comes
Yeah.
to like trade shows. Like
Okay.
nowhere else in my life. But when it comes, for some reason, when it comes to like trade shows and like weird details, I can just remember it was so, it's not helpful for anywhere else but those few times a year. I
Okay.
kind of remember you emailing me and like saying you were coming for the first time. And I
Really?
remember I think so. And I
Oh,
feel like you were
wow.
delayed because there was a snowstorm.
Always. Every time I go to New York, my flight
Sure.
gets
I
canceled.
mean, Chicago to New York. Yeah, I think, but it was still a gift show then. It was like in that north
hmm
section still of
Yes, that room way, yeah, which was
habits
great.
that
I
doesn't
loved
exist
it.
anymore. That was such a
No,
beautiful show.
it was a great
Um,
show. So many good designers were at that show.
yeah, I mean, there's still lots of great designers. It's just a
Oh
bit more
yeah.
scattered now, but yeah, we don't have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
go into all that.
yeah.
I just meant in terms of shows.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gift kind of. I mean, now it's New York now, and I think they're trying to come back after the pandemic. And I actually did go to it last
hmm
August to the
hmm
design, I think it was a capsule, and it was good. I did pick up a few designers at it.
Yeah,
I liked it.
I mean, it's definitely shrunk in size, but I think there's very good
Yeah.
people. There's good people there.
Yeah.
So I still
Yeah.
think it's worthwhile.
Yeah,
Um,
it's worthwhile going to as many as you possibly can when you're a shop owner. You just never know who you'll
yeah.
see or what you'll find. Yeah.
So that was kind of my next question. Like
hmm
when so
hmm
now like was it I guess I have two questions. Was it a conscious decision to start selling more of other people's work, or was it something that just like kind of happened?
Yeah, I think I realized that I was working until like 11 o'clock at night every night and working 80-hour weeks and feeling guilty because I wasn't home with my kids and they were eating hot dogs every day, and so I felt that I just couldn't keep up. I mean, I was making everything myself. I didn't even consider hiring it out or anything like that at the time. I really didn't have the finance to do that. Um, but I think going to New York for the first time just opened it all up to me, this whole new
hmm
world.
hmm
And first and foremost, I'm a jewelry lover.
hmm
And secondly, I'm a jewelry designer. So I think, and also retail, I like having a shop. I like showing it to, I like putting things on display and showing to people and people coming in and learning about new designers. So it was just a matter of time when I would have become bored with just selling my own stuff.
hmm
Otherwise I would have, like I said earlier, had to probably go into a wholesale model just
Right.
to
Yeah. No, you
sustain
felt like
it.
there needed to be a change. And I
Yeah.
so appreciate that. I mean, like, please, my kids eat
hmm
like nuggets and mac and cheese every night.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm doing what I could do. So
But they were, my ex was just like only feeding them hot dogs. So they hate hot dogs. They're fine now, but
sure.
they
They're fully adjusted. They're fine. They're
we
healthy.
yeah. But I was really, self-absorbed for about a year or two there, and that just wasn't a healthy thing for
Yeah.
long term.
Yeah. But hey,
Yeah.
you made a shift and that's really cool. And
Yeah.
also cool that that your kids
Yeah.
can do that and look back on that, even if it's not
Yeah.
just so you remember. Like I think that's a great lesson for them too, you know?
Well, and I did like do this to earn money, and I
Yeah.
because I think I went into it with that mindset, I was able to actually, bring some sort of income in for a while there. So, I mean, obviously I wouldn't do this for free. It's always a challenge, but
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but
Um,
no, I think at the end of the day, I loved discovering all of the designers out there. Just that's how I loved going to Barney's when Barney's was open and looking at every single designer in the case and just I loved
RIP.
that. Right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so now, like, I guess in our post-COVID world, do you
Yeah.
find new designers or keeping up? Do you still rely on trade
Mhm.
shows? Are there like other ways you're connecting, finding designers?
I still like to go to all the shows as much as I can. I don't go to New York in the winter anymore because my flights are always canceled and I go to Tucson instead. And
Blame
there's
you.
I
Miserable.
can exactly, and everything is so much easier now with line sheets and
Yeah.
digital and Instagram. But sometimes it just doesn't translate in an email. So, and I do like to meet the designers that I work with because I want to be able to know their personalities and
Well,
where they come from.
you're very clearly like a storyteller. And so,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
no, I'm
Yeah.
both like a visual and I think as someone who like owns a a jewelry boutique. I think
Right.
that's,
Right.
I just think about like my experiences walking into a store that you love, and it's,
Right.
have to, you're trying to give everyone like a special experience. And I think you do a really great job at that.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm super inspired by the old ABC and Love Adorned. Yes. I don't
Um,
know if it's back again, but
um,
a little bit maybe.
a little bit. It's better
Yeah.
than I think I last went 2 years ago. It's better than it
Hmm.
was, but
Yeah.
yeah, I took a quick peek last night before I went to one of their restaurants for dinner.
Oh,
Um,
okay. The
anyway,
restaurants are good. Yeah. Yeah. So
yes,
no,
yeah.
I love to travel. I love to meet people. I went to India in April with a group of jewelers, which was incredible, and I highly recommend it. You should do it because you
I
could.
I was supposed to go in March of 2020 on that, I believe the same trip you went on,
Yeah, probably.
which got canceled. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It's really
maybe in a few
amazing.
years when my kids are a little older.
Yeah,
I
it's a
only had
big
one
trip
at the
and
time, so
yeah, it's a lot. I mean, you're there for at least 10 days and it
yeah,
really makes sense to add a few days on just to see
yeah,
it, just to see
yeah,
Jaipur. And so my kids are in their 20s now, so I don't have to feel that mom guilt as much
totally.
as right. I get it though.
Mine are 4 and almost 7, so
Okay,
it's
yeah, so
a minute.
that's harder. Yeah, they're little. Yeah. So,
Um,
yeah.
so what, I mean, I feel like you've kind of touched on them, but are there
Hmm.
any like challenges that you've faced as a store owner that like really stand out to you over the years? I mean, you've had
Hmm.
some iteration of the store for, didn't you just celebrate 20 years?
Yeah, 20 years was this is our 21st year. Hmm.
My goodness, congratulations. And
Thank
but you
you.
moved, right? It's a different
We've had 5 locations.
oh
So
wow.
my original location I was in for 2 years, and then I moved to Chicago. I had 2 stores at one point, closed one, stayed in Chicago for 5 years, came back to Oak Park, and this is my third store in Oak Park, and just moving for different reasons. Like
Mhm. Sure.
the space wasn't quite right, or I wanted a larger space. And now we have this space combined with our home store,
Mhm.
but it's still mostly the jewelry that is, what takes over, what's most
Yeah.
important. Hmm.
Are there any like challenges that have stuck out in your mind of over the like your, I mean, if there is a
You own a store.
yeah,
Yes.
a
So
million.
many. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Like a
what's
light
not?
bulb
Yeah.
blows and that's your challenge for the day.
Yes. Yes. Well, yeah, yes, but yeah, there's always challenges, customers or clients, you always want to make sure they're happy and making sure that they understand the fact that maybe delicate jewelry might not last forever and everyone wears it differently, and explaining that. And so repairs are always a challenge,
Mhm.
trying to handle those in the best way possible to make people happy. um Staffing issues is always a challenge, right? And I'm very lucky that Jen has been with me for 9 years and she's amazing. Yeah, really, really, really great, and I don't think I could do it without her. But other part-time people come and go, and it always can present its form of challenges. What else? I don't know. There's a lot, neighborhood stuff like construction going on the
Yeah.
street,
Like
things like
things are
that.
completely out of your control. Yeah.
Completely. Yeah. One thing that I have, like I do talk about with new designers is the competition with a designer on social media, and like
Mm.
the direct to consumer, designer, which we've had issues with some, not not a lot, but we've had issues where we're almost competing against, a designer that we bring in and we invest in, and our customer learns about them and then goes to their website and buys
Mm.
at a discount. And that's the
Yeah,
biggest.
that's such a tricky thing.
Yeah.
Also hearing it from your side. Yeah, I always try to be conscious that I'm posting about the stores that carry my work enough.
Yeah.
Um, I'll always share things when they post it, and to make sure I'm not like tagging it on my side. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. But that's like it's a fine line because there's no, and I've run into that issue on my end,
Hmm.
not knowing that they found my work at a store.
Right. Of
Yeah,
course.
I mean, how does
Because they might
anyone know?
not say it, or you.
Sure. Why
Yeah.
would they?
Right. I mean, you're great. And I'm not at all complaining, I'm
Oh,
just,
no, no, no.
yeah. I mean,
I'm
you
kind of
also do a
thinking
lot
out
of one
loud.
of a kind. Yeah.
Yeah,
So when you sell a lot of one of a kind pieces, you
sure.
can't compete with that. It's easier to sell that. But when something is made over and over again and you're finding that the designer, and I'm not going to say who they are, but
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
you see that they have like the first time 20% off sale, and then there's no
yeah.
tax because Chicago is 10%. So you could save like 30%. I get it.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't,
Wow,
a
Chicago
conscious
taxes is
consumer?
10%.
Yeah, our sales tax is 10%.
I mean, I guess ours is not that far. It's like 8.7 and change, so it's not too far off.
Right.
But yeah, it's still
Yeah,
adds up.
it does. And of course we do free shipping because we have to. So
Yeah,
there's not that cost, but
yeah,
if I ship it out of state, they don't pay tax. Anyway, it just,
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
adds up. I mean, I get it.
yeah, yeah. It's there's always a new challenge.
It
Um,
is.
what? So my last two really quick last questions. My last
Okay.
question is, I've kind of said this, but like, what's your favorite thing about owning?
Mhm. Um, I love doing display. I love that part of it. I love buying. I love traveling. I love meeting designers and talking about, their story behind why they do, because it's a little world, that we're all sort of like, why are we in this world? We kind of all come from the same love for jewelry or for working with our hands and metalsmithing and, because I do a little bit of metalsmithing, but not like you do, which I'm so impressed by,
Oh,
a real metalsmither,
oh, but you're real too. Don't knock your own skills.
Oh, thanks. I'm more self, taught and I have limitations, which I'm fine with. If I wanted to learn more, I would. It's just that
Yeah.
retail has taken kind of over. I love it when a client, finds something and gets so excited and,
Mhm.
like sharing the piece that I brought into the store and they've, get like passing the jewelry on to the person who was meant to have it.
Yeah.
I love seeing that.
Yeah, it's a special thing that as someone who sells like mostly wholesale and online, I don't get to see that often.
Oh,
Um, but I got a really sweet message today from a client who I've known for like 15 years. And,
yeah.
you learn so much about someone's life, what they, sometimes shopping can be therapy for people, right? Like,
Oh,
that retail therapy and,
completely.
they're
Yeah.
telling you parts of their lives and, her
Mhm.
messaged me that her daughter, who she first bought a piece when she was trying to conceive, is
Mhm.
like a freshman in high school.
Oh, I love
All
that.
this and how she's like, even though you've never met her, like how I know her through my pieces because she's bought so many things. I was like, oh, what a beautiful.
That's beautiful.
It was a really beautiful thing. So I'm sure
Yeah.
there's lots of people in your realm too who, you know, we know them through the pieces that they've purchased, and it's a very
Yep.
special thing.
It really is. And even I mean, mostly we sell to women, I would say
Mhm.
self-purchasing. But there are, of course, men and gift givers who come in
Mhm.
and buy. And usually it's more of a seasonal thing and it's a different type of sale, kind of a little more annoying sometimes, but between us, we had a guy come in last night at the very end of the day, buy his wife a piece earring for her birthday, which was yesterday.
Sure.
But yeah, he made it right before we closed, and he said something to Jen while he was purchasing it. He's like, I was thinking about getting her a nice bottle of wine, and she likes flowers, but at the end of the day the wine is gone and the flowers will die, but the jewelry, she always has it, she'll always remember it, she can pass it down to our daughter. And and he's like, I said, I've also learned that when I buy her jewelry, she's really happy. And I'm like, duh,
I
like
would have been like, "Excuse me, can I get this on film, sir?"
I know. I'm like, thank you. And he had like
Wow.
sort of not come around in a few years, and he came back
Uh-huh.
at Christmas, and then he came back yesterday. I'm like, thank God. They do the I think it's true. Even my own husband, I tell him, please buy me, buy me jewelry. He even bought a line, or I'm sorry, a necklace from my website. Crazy. I know, I was doing a trunk
Did he use a
show
fake
and
name?
he just no, we were doing a trunk show, so all these pieces were up like for like a week, and I commented about how much it's this necklace. I commented about how much I love this necklace. And like the next morning, like ding, I see the Shopify thing come up on my phone and it's like my husband's name.
Oh my.
And he bought the necklace. And I'm like, you could have gone around, like you could have,
Right.
Jen could have done you like
Sure. Right. Like we would have given it to you for wholesale probably.
yes,
Or
she could have put
whatever.
a fake name in there and you could have gotten a discount, I said. And he's like, well, I don't want a discount. I want to pay full price. It's my wife's jewelry
Oh,
store. Right?
oh, that's
I
sweet.
know. I know. I'm like, thank you.
That's
Because
really
usually
sweet.
it's,
That's like, I
yeah.
don't have it on today. My engagement ring, I picked it out at a trade show from, Danielle Wellman's.
Yes, I have carried
Oh my
her.
gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I just fell in love with her as an artist. And, this
Yeah.
was 10 plus years ago. It just as
Hmm.
the aspiration of, her wonderful career. And, I showed
Right.
a picture of my husband. I was like, if we ever get engaged, this is what I want, blah, blah, blah. Eventually we get engaged and he's like, oh my God, it's the ring. And I was like, did you reach out to Danielle? And he goes, no, I bought it from Sundance.
But at least it was her ring
Yeah,
though, right?
I know
You're
it
so
was her ring.
sweet.
It was her ring. But I'm just like, I
Oh,
gave you her card.
it's the
I gave you
easiest
her business
way
card. I
to
know.
do it. They just, and I think
Yeah.
that with my husband, it was the easiest way.
Yeah.
He didn't
That was
want to
really sweet.
text
He wanted to pay
Jen.
full price. That's
That
sweet.
was sweet. Yes. He's not a cheap person. So I do appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I've
mean,
met him.
yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Michael. You've
Yeah.
met
I've
him.
definitely met him. Yeah, I remember him being really funny.
He's funny. He loves to get to know everybody. He tells
Yeah.
a lot of stories. You've probably heard the same story a few times, but he does. He likes to get,
Yeah.
he really likes to get to know what I'm doing, which I really appreciate.
Yeah. That's
It's
very
sweet.
cool.
Yeah.
Um, Well, thank you so much. This was selfishly
Yeah.
so fun because I got to learn a lot about like your story that I didn't know.
Thank
That's
you.
why I really like doing these interviews. I'm like, who am I friends with that I
They're
can ask?
fun. I
Yeah,
love
it's
doing
fun.
stuff like this.
Yeah,
I'm not even
that's
nervous.
also something I've always admired about you. How willing you are with education over the years that I've just kind of seen from afar, you
Yeah.
participating in
Hmm.
whether it's like design reviews or panel talks and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I think that's really admirable, and I just think it's really special, and that's something I love too. So
I think it's really important to mentor, if you can, it just can help somebody else. And also, we're all women-owned businesses and we need to help each other and stick together. And, there's enough to go around. I've always believed that. There's no reason to, hide your secrets or whatever it is, So
yeah,
I've always felt really
my
strongly
favorite
about
quote:
that.
"Rising tides lift all ships," and I really firmly believe in that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
I just not once in my life in my career has that ever burned me, and if it does, you move on.
No.
That's
No,
it.
me neither. Not in that regard. I mean, I've been burned, but it was a
But in other
personal
ways,
thing.
not right. Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You might
Yeah.
know what I'm talking.
I do.
Anyway, you can cut
Anyway,
that out.
thank you
Yeah.
so much.
You're
This was
welcome.
this was so fun, and I'm so happy to talk to you. And I will share it in writing form too. But your Instagram accounts is Gem Jewelry Boutique and Row House, right?
My personal account is Row House,
Oh,
which you
sorry,
can.
we can cut that out.
Oh no, it's not
Oh, okay.
private. I actually want followers. It's my renovating of our home.
I am like obsessed with it.
Thank you.
I am upset. Like and I'm not just like blowing smoke up your ass right now because we're on an interview. You just have
Thank
such a good.
you.
I feel so inspired when I see things. And I'm like, I think I even messaged you once. I'm like, this is my
Yeah, we've
mantle. What should I do?
messaged.
I know, and
Yeah.
I love. I mean, I love interior design, but I get very inspired from
Yeah.
other people, and you
Thank
are
you.
one of
Me
them.
too. I go back and forth between being obsessed with interiors and jewelry, and those are the two things that have always kind of been in my life. So I just decided to blend them together.
I mean, there's a lot of terrible things out there. I just want to be
Mhm.
surrounded and share beautiful things.
I agree with you. Yep.
That's my
Thank
purpose.
you.
It's
Thank
just
you.
to share some beauty out there and make someone smile.
It's if that's all we all
Yeah.
do something different in the world.
What a
And if that's our
blessing, right?
part,
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Yeah. Well, on that
All
note,
right.
thank you so
Thanks,
much, Laura.
Emily.
This was so fun.
Thank you.
And talk to you soon.
Okay, it's an honor. Thank you.